Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I rise to speak against Senate Bill 4. Members, we know why we're here. The federal government is not doing its job. It's not doing enough on the border for enforcement or providing an orderly, humane, and modern policy. Policy that's true to our values, policy that's true to our heritage, and frankly, policy that's needed for our economy. We know that. We know they're not doing their job. But members, the federal government already has an offense for unlawful entry. And that has not deterred desperate migrants who are looking for a better life. And frankly, no legislation at any level of government is going to dissuade anyone from fleeing persecution, from fleeing poverty, violence. But my fear is that these new state offenses are going to have a chilling effect in our state. A state that is minority majority, 41% Latino. I fear for our families and our communities who might suffer the unintended consequences of this bill. And I say that because I know what the author's intent is. Members, we're familiar with Senator Hinojosa's story, how he was wrongfully deported as a child. That child grew up playing football, like many members in this body, under those Friday night lights in our state. He enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps. He fought overseas in Vietnam for our country. He graduated from one of the top universities, or one of the top law schools in our country, and has had a distinguished career in our legislature. But what if that child wasn't able to come back home? What if that child was not able to be reunited with his family here in the States? Now, we all agree in this chamber, because we know him very well, that our state is better because Chewy is here. But how many kids and adults are we going to risk wrongfully being deported or wrongfully being detained? That's what our families, that's what our communities on the border and across Texas, that's what they're worried about. You know, decades ago, migrants used to come to this country through New York City, and they looked at that Statue of Liberty, and they would look at that torch on Lady Liberty as a symbol of the American dream. And in El Paso, we have this iconic star on our mountain. I'm sure many of you have seen it. And that star lights up our Franklin Mountains. And I think for many, Lady Liberty's torch is now that mountain star in El Paso. Since our nation's founding, you know, we've been a melting pot for so many different peoples, so many different cultures, traditions, and Texas is no different. In fact, we're as diverse as the 6 flags that have flown over our great state. From Europeans, like the English, the Spaniards, the Asians that came to build our railroads, the Africans who were brought to our state against their will, and everyone in between who pursued the American dream. Migrants have also fought to defend and died for our country's ideals. Jose Antonio Gutierrez, a Guatemalan immigrant who traversed 2,000 miles on foot, at age 17 would later enlist in the United States Marine Corps and reported to be the first U.S. combat death in Operation Iraqi Freedom after we were attacked by terrorists on 9/11. This immigrant who came to our country enlisted, he fought for democracy, gave his last full measure of devotion to our country. A country he risked everything for because of what we stand for. You know, just last session, I had the honor and the privilege when this chamber bestowed the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor to Marcelino Serna, a Mexican immigrant who would become one of the most decorated U.S. soldiers from World War I. Our country is better because of the sacrifices of Jose Antonio Gutierrez, the sacrifices of Marcelino Serna, and the countless other immigrants who have served our great country in uniform. Countless other immigrants have also built and are currently building our economy. From the farms, the ranch hands who make sure that food is on our table, to the construction workers who are building our homes and our roads, engineers, the teachers, immigrants. And mixed status families have made us stronger in this state and in this country. You know, members, last week at church, we were going through scripture, and there was this passage that I thought, it was just the timing of it and how it resonated. It's Exodus chapter 22, verse 20. You shall not oppress or afflict a resident alien, for you were once aliens residing in the land of Egypt. You shall not wrong any widow or any orphan. Members, our Creator implores us to love our neighbors. Love our neighbors as ourselves. Each of us has an immigrant story in this chamber. An ancestor who made it possible for all of us to be here today as members of this esteemed body. And I'm so grateful that they did. I'm so grateful that they made it here. Because our state wouldn't be the same without each and every single one of you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.